right here, the first thing we're starting with is number theory, computations, directed numbers is the first class. That's what we did on Tuesday, and we are continuing with that now. So this here is what we did on Tuesday. What is maths? Maths is a language. It is the language of everything. You have nouns, which are numbers, right? And those numbers could take any form. And then you have verbs, which are your operations, yeah. And then you also have, sentences. Well, you have adjectives up here, which is like equal and all of this. And then you could form a sentence that says something, right? We talked about directed numbers on a number line, and this brought us to the concept of negative numbers. And that the further down you go, the negative number line is the smaller you get. Just like how the higher up you go in a number line is the bigger it gets, right? We talked about a special kind of O and P kind of way to talk about to do these directed numbers questions. And of course, we will probably see some of that today if you don't know what I'm talking about. We talked about the difference between signs and operations. Yeah, that operations will include addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. These are the operations. But when it comes to a sign, well, a number could only be positive or negative. Well, this is negative here, or it could be a positive 3, right? And we could see here that a positive 3 doesn't need to have a sign in front of it. Yeah, it's understood to be positive. Right? I think everybody knows that. We talk about how addition is commutative. So you could flip the 3 and the 4 and you'll get the same answer. But we talked about how subtraction is not commutative. This stuff is so important when you reach things like algebra. Even when you reach things like vectors and matrices and things, commutative and that kind of, it is pop up in so many different places, right? You have your 4 here, and this is negative 4. So we saw here that these are two different questions, because this is a positive 4 here, and this is a negative 4 here. So they can't be the same question. They could never be equal. However, on this side, we were showing how if you have a positive 4 and a negative 3, you could rearrange it. Notice the 3 is still negative here. The 4 is still positive here. So as long as you keep the sign, in this situation, we didn't keep the sign. The sign remained in the middle. And so subtraction is not commutative. But if you keep the sign, they will be equal. And when you keep the sign, that is called the associative law. So we talked about the associative law, and you'll see we did questions on the associative law. Right? But first we did the rules for addition and subtraction. And this is where we will talk about our little cheat sheet. So we did the rules for addition and subtraction. When the signs are the same, you add them and you keep the sign. And we did some questions. When the signs are different, you find the difference and keep the sign of the larger number. It's the second class now. So you all might think, oh, all of this stuff easy to remember. But no, it's not easy to remember. We will do something called a cheat sheet after every topic. Sometimes I just forget to do the cheat sheet, but a cheat sheet is a summary, right? So you can see here that we will do the summary just now, just in case you can't remember all of it. So when the signs are different, you find the difference. So you can see here a minus 4 and a plus 3. The signs are different. So you find the difference between 3 and 4 is 1. And you keep the sign of that larger number, which is the 4, which is a negative. So we keep that sign. And then we talked about some associative law questions. Yeah. So in the associative law allows us, because we could rearrange numbers anyhow we want, as long as you keep the sign that is associated with the number. Do not change a sad number into a happy number, right? So you can see here that, you know, associative law makes it super easy to be adding long strings of numbers. When you have a long string of number, you don't have to add this one and this one and this one and this one. No, you could say, well, look, this -4 and this +4 will cancel. This -2 and this +2 will cancel. And this -3 and this -3 and this +3 will cancel. And so you'll get 0. Yeah, you could start to cancel off numbers all over the place. We talked about that double negative thing when you have a minus and a minus, like 2 minus -3, and that double negative does actually form a plus, right? And you can see here, this is the reason why. Why does the two negatives form a positive? Why? Because subtraction is also known as the additive inverse, which means to do the opposite of whatever came before. So if subtraction comes before, then the next subtraction says, hey, do the opposite of what that says, which is adding, right? Then we talked about some questions. So we talked about a lot of things in the last class, right? So we're moving on in this class. We might go straight up to the 5 o'clock in this class. Now, guys, you know, a lot of you all strolled in very late. A lot of you all strolled in 10 past 3 to, you know, 20 past 3. It is now 20 past 3. We're now going to start here. So please, this is a class where we're covering the full curriculum. 5 years of work in 1 year. This is not the class to be late to, and this is not the class to miss, right? Ayanta, Anaya, I know all of you guys were in my junior class. This class is different from the junior class. You do not have to hand up notes for this class. You do not have to hand up assignments for this class. I'll be giving you assignments to do. Is your business whether you do it or not. I'll just correct it. Yeah, so we're gonna get started. Karen, you doing okay?
Yes, I'm fine.
All right, all right, cool. So Karen, let me ask you a question, Karen. What is 3 multiplied by 4? Feel free to be wrong, eh?
12.
Right, thank you.
12.
Feel free to be wrong. Lord knows I just get my normal timetables wrong sometimes. It has happened, right? And Karen, what is 4 multiplied by 3?
Same answer, 12.
Right. So that means that multiplication is, where's the word? It starts with a C. It's a long word, not a short word. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So multiplication is commutative. That means that if you have A multiplied by B, that will be the same as B multiplied by A. Right. So we're talking about the rules for multiplication. Before we get into this though, I want you to go on the side, right? And let me start to compile, because all of these rules are going to get a little heavy. So let me start to compile our cheat sheet. And this is just a list of all of the rules, right? So the cheat sheet for directed numbers. And what do we have? We have, so far, we have for addition and subtraction. All right? And we talked about if the signs are the same, so same signs. Right? So 3 plus 4 is 7. You see they both have the same signs. And then we have -3 minus 4 is a -7. They both have the same signs. So same signs means you just add them and keep the sign. All right? So we compile in a cheat sheet here. We are compiling a cheat sheet. Then that's if they have the same signs. So what if they have different signs? All right? So different signs. Like for example, 4 minus 3 is equal to 1. But minus 4 plus 3 is equal to minus 1. You can see they have the different signs there. So different signs means to find the difference. So different signs mean you find the difference. So the difference between 3 and 4 is 1, and you keep the sign of the larger number. So the 4 is larger in this case, so the answer will have the sign of the 4. I'll just leave that up there for a minute. So we talked about addition and subtraction. Now we're going to talk about multiplication and division. And these are the rules for directed numbers for multiplication and division. So rule number 1, if this is for multiplication and division, right? If the signs are the same, then the answer will be positive. If the signs are the same, then the answer will be positive, right? And you could see here that, you know, the signs are the same. We have a positive 3 and a positive 4. 4 times 3 is 12. And in this case, we have a negative 3 and a negative 4. The signs are the same, so we will also have 12. Notice, a negative multiplied by a negative, this gives you a positive. Negative 3 multiplied by negative 4, this gives you positive 12. Can anybody tell me how is that possible? Prove that to me. And Sarah, you're doing physics today? Which subject are you doing today?
Also, I woke up early. I've done my homework.
Oh, so you're just relaxing today. Well, let me test your brain a little bit. Sarah, can you prove why it is a negative number multiplied by a negative number is a positive number? How does that make sense? Because if we look at the number line, this is 0 here. This is negative 3. This is negative 4. So how come when I take negative 3 and multiply it by negative 4, I gain positive 12 all the way on this side of the number line? So why? How it is that when it is you multiply two negative numbers, you just get a positive? I'm going to leave this for you to think about. I'm not answering this question. Think about it. Maybe when we go deeper into today's class, you might get a little hint as to what it is, right? Now, note a way to note something. When we multiply in two negative numbers, you just get a positive number, right? But when we
yeah, that the same thing like when you a negative cross a negative a positive. I see the same kind of.
A negative plus a negative does give you a positive. Not necessarily. That's what you're saying? You mean when we had this? That this is what you're talking about?
But we talking about in the beginning of class.
Yeah, like you're seeing this on the screen here, right?
Yeah.
Is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right. Now, Omari, I'll tell you something with this class, and I love the fact that you're actually conversational. It does seems like you're afraid, right? So I just right, lovely. So I just want to reinforce that this is not the class where you had to be afraid. You could say anything. You could interrupt me while I'm teaching, as long as it has something to do with the topic, of course, right? You could feel free to be wrong. If I ask you, I will be calling. You see how I'm calling people name, right? So I'll be calling your name. Don't be afraid. You could feel free to be wrong. It's all good. I love the try that Tony gave. I love the try that Omari gave. They're not quite Omari, not quite, but I like the try, right? Now check this out. Remember, this is for multiplication and division. So, if we had a case of, example, and I'll just put the example on the top corner here. Negative 10 divided by negative 2, right? 10 divided by 2 is 5. But you could see easily here why it is that it's positive, right? The signs are the same, so the answer is positive. But you could see why, because just like how the 2 does cancel with the 2 in the 10 to give you 5, 2 into 2, 1, 2 into 10 is 5, the negatives just cancel as well. So you could see for division, it's quite easy. The negatives are canceling off, and so you'll remain with no negative. Yeah. So in division, it's easy to see why the 2 negatives could cancel off to give you the positive. But we're talking about multiplication here. All right. How does canceling work with multiplication? Isaiah and Sarah. Hint, hint. Hint, hint, Isaiah and Sarah, who were in my last cycle. Yeah. Now take a look at this, right? As I say, I'm leaving this as an open-ended question. We're going to talk about it, right? Something about the inverse. Maybe, Isaiah, maybe, right? But notice this is when you have 2 numbers. What about when you have 3 numbers? If we add a 3rd negative number, the answer will become negative. Why? Well, it's easy to see. If I take negative 3 times negative 4, I will get positive 12. But then I'm taking the positive 12 and I'm multiplying it by this next negative 1. And that will make it negative 12. Right? So you can see here that only when you have an even amount of negative numbers will you have a positive answer. If you have an odd amount of negative numbers, you'll end up with a negative answer. Little things to think about. Let me hear some Dunnets for this one. Different, yes. Right? So for division, we're talking about here. If the signs are the same, so we're still on rule number 1, right? The answer will be positive, and you could see why. Negative 4 divided by negative 2 is just negative 4 over negative 2. The negatives will cancel off to give you 4 over 2, which is just 2. Right? Now this is the reason why. Why does the negatives cancel off? Because what is 4? 4 is actually 4 multiplied by negative 1. That is what 4 actually is. 4 multiplied by negative 1. That is what will give you negative 4. So 4 multiplied by negative 1 is negative 4. So you could pull out the negative. So it's really the negative 1s that cancel in, because that is the same as the negative 2. Right? That is really what's going on there, is the negative 1s that cancel in. And then this 2 will cancel with one of these 2s here. Right? So notice, and this is just a note, that all negative numbers, if you have a number like negative 5 or negative 2, all negative numbers can be seen as the product of negative 1. All negative numbers, so negative 3 can be seen as 3 multiplied by negative 1, right? Negative 15 can be seen as, well, you could see it as 15 multiplied by negative 1, but you could also see it as 5 multiplied by negative 3, because 5 3s are 15, or even negative 5 multiplied by 3. So you could see here that once one of the numbers are negative, your answer going to end up negative. That is how we get a negative number. Once you have a negative 1 somewhere inside of there, it does make the answer negative. Right? Not only, right, or you could see this big or here, right? It's not only by multiplication. Negative 3, you could get a negative 3 if you take 3 and multiply it by negative 1. That is true. But it have another way to get negative 3 if you take 3 and divide it by negative 1. Isaiah asks, so would negative 1 count as a product of negative 1? Yes, negative 1 is 1 multiplied by negative 1. right? Any number multiplied by 1 is itself. So you could see it as a positive 1 multiplying by a negative 1. We talked about the same signs. When numbers have the same signs, then the answer will be positive. Example being -3 multiplied by -4 is positive 12. Another example being -10 divided by -2 is positive 5. So once they both have the same signs, your answer will be positive, right? But what if they have different signs? Well, I'm sure that you all will see different signs, your answers will be negative. And I'll just write the examples, even though we didn't write the note yet. I'll write the examples right here one time. If you have -3 multiplied by 4, you will have -12. Or if you have -10 divided by 2, you'll have -5. Or if you have 10 divided by -2, you'll have -5. Hint, hint, Isaiah and Sarah, if you're still thinking about that question. Hint, hint. In fact, you do have enough ammunition now to answer the question. You have enough ammunition now to answer it. Rules for multiplication and division of two numbers when the signs are different. So if the signs are different, the answer will be negative. So -3 times 4 is -12. And 4 divided by -2 is the same as or equivalent to -4 divided by 2. These two are the same. The answer will be -2. So these contain addition and subtraction as well. Number 1, number 4, and number 6. Number 2, 3, and 5 are multiplication and division. All right. Karen, you're being an adult. You have adult things going on. Okay.
-1.
Yes, -1. Right? And in this case, when the signs are different, you find the difference and you keep the sign of the larger number. Or you could think about it in terms of O and P, where if I owe Karen $4 and I have $3 to my name, I could give you the $3, but I will owe her $1 again. Number 2 is 2 multiplied by -1.
Negative.
So what'll that be?
I did say that would be 1, so.
All right, how that gonna be 1? Because you minus and 2 minus 1.
No, it is like that, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's a multiply, isn't it?
So that would be.
So what's 2 multiplied by 1?
That would be 2. -2, so.
-2. There we go. So 2 multiplied by 1 is 2, but this is a -1. So it'll be -2, right? All right. 4 times 3 is -12. Kimberly, if you don't hear me out in a minute, Kimberly, I'll have to message your parents, Sorry for saying that, but I will have to message your parents, right? That is the rules in the class. Right? We have -2 minus 2. When the signs are the same, you add them and you keep the signs. This is, Omari, this is not a multiply. Yeah? You can see it have no multiplication sign there. It have none. Right. So the signs are the same, so you just add them and you keep the sign. This one here is 21 divided by -7. So 7 3s are 21, but that one negative number will make it negative. And this one over here, we have the 2 negatives, which will be a plus. So this is -4 plus 4. When the signs are different, you find the difference, which is 0. The difference between 4 and 4 would have no difference. And well, if you get 0 for the answer, you don't have to worry about a sign, because 0 doesn't have a sign. 0 is 0. You can't have +0, you can't have -0, right? Dum, da dum, dum. Let me see all you now. So now we have Bodmas, right? And what Bodmas is, we learned about we learned how to add and subtract that numbers that have different signs. and we learned how to multiply and divide numbers that have different signs. But what if we have a question that have everything one time? Yeah, how do we work a question like that? And these are some examples here. So you can see that these questions have addition, they have subtraction, they have multiplication, you know? They have all of that. So we use a system called Bodmas. Bodmas being brackets, and brackets are anything like that. So what we do is we work the brackets first. Yeah, so the brackets is what we work first. Now, anybody who ever did Bodmas before, you'll think that orders, division, multiplication, you know, orders, this have to do with the power, right? So orders, this had to do with power. For example, 3 to the power of 2, right? And for anybody who knows what this means 3 multiplied by itself 2 times. So this is a form of multiplication, therefore. Division, right? Say 10 divided by 2 is the same as saying 10 multiplied by a half. And the next class, we're going to be doing fractions. So the next class, you're going to be seeing, we'll do a little more on that. Right, fractions thing. But you can see in here that division is actually just multiplying by a fraction. That is what division really is. And well, then you have multiplication here, right? So you can see that all of these 3 are actually multiplications. All of these 3 does boil down to multiplication. Right? So when you're doing Bodmas, you do your brackets first. Then you check for any indices or powers, any divisions, multiplications. You do that second. And then at the end of it is where you should be doing addition and subtraction. So people just think Bodmas have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. But really, Bodmas only have 3 steps. Yeah, and let me do these questions here just to illustrate, and you will have your own questions to do. Right? You'll have your own questions to do. Right? Now, with Bodmas here, check it out. All right, I see in here, this gentleman have a question. That is what orders is. Just call it exponents. Yes, yeah. Well, that is why the Americans have, they don't use Bodmas. They just call it PEMDAS. And if you notice, it's the same thing, because they wouldn't call it brackets, they will call it parentheses. They wouldn't call it orders, they will call it exponents. And notice how they have the multiplication before the division. And even us, when we have Bodmas, but we also have BOMDAS. And that goes to show that it doesn't matter the order of the multiplication and division. You know, you don't have to do division first. You could do multiplication first. Yeah. So since the orders, divisions, and multiplications is all a form of multiplication, which one comes first? You could do them in any order. And we will see why. We will see why. Isaiah asked a great question. Does that mean that you have to do orders first and then division and then multiplication? No. This is why I put all of these in one section. And you will see why just now. You might think, well, that's confusing. So how am I going to know which one to do? You're going to see why I said so. Because remember, all of number 2 is boiled down to multiplication. All of number 2 is just multiplication. All of number 3 is just addition. Because we saw already that subtraction is just the additive inverse. It's just adding in the other direction. Right? So you'll see here, let me do these questions quick, right? So you'll see question number 1, according to Bodmas, I have to do the brackets first. So the brackets first is going to give me 2 minus 5. The signs are different. So I'll find the difference and I'll keep the sign at the larger number. So the larger number being 5, right? And so now we have
Well,
negative 3, yeah?
Explain that one more time. Sorry.
No problem. Explain which one more time.
The 2 minus the 5.
Right. So, but the rule here is, you notice how the 2 is a positive and the 5 is a negative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that means they have different signs. When the signs are different, right, you find the difference, which is 3, and keep the sign at the large, at the larger number. Yes. The larger number. Another way is the owe and pay method, where if you're owing, I owing Tony $5, but I only have $2. So I guess you my $2, I go owe she $3 again, right? Yeah, so you have the owe and pay way of thinking about it, right? And so now I have the brackets now is negative 3. I work out the brackets first, and now I have this 3 over here. So this is 3 multiplied by negative 3. Well, the signs are different. My answer going to be negative. 3 3s are 9. Negative 9. So you work your brackets first. Look at number 2. Notice how number 2 have exactly the same numbers, exactly the same operations, but it has no brackets. So with number 2, all right, I had to do my brackets first. It have brackets? No. So all right, so no brackets. What do I have to do second? Orders, divisions, multiplications. What do I have? I have multiplications. So you had to do this multiplication first. So 3 times 2 is 6. And now you have 3. So 3 times 2, this is 6. And now you have the minus 5 remaining. And as you can see, we did the multiplication. All the multiplications done. Now we have number 3, which is the addition and subtraction. So 6 minus 5 is 1. Notice the big difference that them brackets make, because it's the same numbers, the same operations, but them brackets, notice the big difference them brackets make, right? So for number 3 here, well, all right, I have to do the brackets first. That's the first thing I had to check. Are there brackets? Yes, there are. Let me do the brackets first. So I have the first brackets, which says 4 minus 2, and that is 2. Then I have multiply, this multiply in the middle here. And then I have my second bracket, 2 minus 4. The signs are different, so you find the difference, keep the sign of the larger number, right? So 2 multiplied by negative 2. Well, all right, my bracket's gone now, right? All I have is the multiply remain. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and negative 4 is the answer. It don't have any addition and subtraction to do. This here is the rule that we just did up here. If the signs are different when you're multiplying, the answer will be negative. Now look at number 4 now. Notice number 4 again is the exact same numbers and the exact same operations as number 3. Okay? But no brackets. So I'm gonna do number 4. The first thing I had to check in Bodmas is brackets. It have any brackets? No. Right? So what do I have to do next? Orders, divisions, and multiplications. So I seen that have a multiplication here. And my older students, all you know what I say about multiplication and division. Right? So that means I have to do this multiplication first. A lot of you all would have go 4 minus 2. No. You had to do that multiplication first. So I have the 4 here. I have the minus here. this multiplication, 2 times 2, that is 2 2s are 4. So I have 4 there. And then I have an x minus 4 on this side. So 4 minus 4, well, this will give me 0. Yeah, and so 0 minus 4, my answer is minus 4. All right, wow, look at that. Now, this is pure coincidence, huh? This is a pure coincidence that this number 3 and number 4 are get the same answer. That is pure coincidence. That is just because of the numbers involved. But you will not necessarily get the same answer, no. Yeah, that's pure coincidence. I feel for the next cycle, I had to change that number. I had to put 3 somewhere in there just so you wouldn't get the same answer, right? Anyways, any questions? Why do we have to do, why is it that I could, like the question that Isaiah asked, why is it that I could do the divisions before the multiplications, or I could do the multiplications before the divisions, and it'll all be the same, right? Why? No problem, Isaiah. Why is that? This is why. Please remember this. This is an important one. Multiplication and division glues numbers together. This is the reason why Bodmas works. Notice, if you have a number, and I'll just write it small here. If you have a number 6, right? That one number could be expressed as 2 multiplied by 3. So this one number is really 2 numbers multiplied together. Right? These are 2 factors. So when you have any multiplication taking place, those are 2 factors. And so your answer could be a united number. And you might argue the same thing for addition, but addition and subtraction is a bit different. And we will see that when we start algebra. Why is it that it's not the same with addition and subtraction? So please just remember it for now. Multiplication and division glues numbers together. Addition and subtraction separates numbers. And so let's see these 3 questions as examples, and then you will get questions of your own, right? So check this out. Look at this first question here. You know, you have all of this. Now, you have Bodmas here, but you don't even have to think about Bodmas. Once you know this, you don't need to think about Bodmas. You have a question here, and you know multiplication and division glues numbers together. So that means 2 multiplied by 3. These numbers are glued together. Yeah? 4 multiplied by 1. These numbers are glued together. Right? 4 divided by 2. These numbers are glued together. Right? Addition and subtraction separates numbers. So you can see that this number is separate from this one. That is why you can't be going and adding this 3 to this 4. No, you can't do that, because they are both parts of different numbers. Right? You can't be going 1 minus 4 either, because this subtraction separates these 2 numbers. Think about it like that, you'll never get it wrong. So this is why you have to do the multiplication first. So 2 times 3 is 6. Right? You can see I have my plus sign here. And then 4 times 1 is 4. And I have the minus sign. And then I have now 4 divided by 2 is 2. And so we could see here that we could use associative law here now for addition and subtraction. 4 minus 2 is 2. So this will be 6 plus 2. Right? Because 4 minus 2 is 2. So this is 6 plus 2, which is 8, is the answer here. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Yes, I like how you think about it. This is the factors of 6. Yeah. These are the factors of 4. And these here are factors as well of 2. Factors and multiples, actually. 4 is being a multiple of 2 when you're dealing with division, right? Look at this question here. Same thing. Look for the multiplications and divisions. Multiplication glues numbers together, so these two are glued together. So you might want to go and say, well, -1 plus 3. But no, that -1 is glued to the 2 because of multiplication. This 3 is glued to the 2. Right? So you'll have the 4 minus, and then what is this? 2 multiplied by -1 is -2, right? Then you have your plus, and now you have 3 times 2 is 6, and then you have a -2 on the end here, right? You know that these two minuses, and let me just make some room, because I don't want to go sideways, right? You know that these two minuses will give you a plus. So this will really be 4 plus 2 plus 6 minus 2. The associative law tells us that this 2, you see how, by the way, you see how we finish all of the multiplication and division. So it only have addition and subtraction left. And that is why addition and subtraction is last in Bodmas. Yeah. So why does Bodmas work? This is why Bodmas works. You can see here that this plus 2 and this minus 2, then 2 minus 2 is 0. Then we'll cancel with each other. So all I'll have left is 4 plus 6, which is 10. And look at this last one here. You could see that I have brackets and I have to work them brackets first. You could see that. But take a look at the glue. Take a look at the glue. Multiplication glues numbers together. So that means that this is actually one number. Yes, you had to work the brackets first. Yes, you do, right? But this is actually one number. And look, this 3 multiplied by that, this is actually one number, right? Because of this multiplication. So this entire question is really just 2 numbers separated by this addition sign. And so, yes, we do have to work the brackets first. 4 minus 2 is 2 multiplied by -1. We have the plus sign, and then we have on this side, we have 3 multiplied by 2 minus 2 is 0. Right? So 2 multiplied by -1 is -2. Is a multiply. 2 times 1 is 2, and you had the negative. Then you have plus 3 multiplied by 0, anything multiplied by 0 is 0. And so the answer here is -2. -2 plus 0 is -2. All right, practice time. Let me see how easy you think it is. All right, Mashaila? You have 4 here, and then I have a next set for you over here. So let me see how easy you think it is. 4 questions. I'll give you 2-3 minutes. Now, yes, I know Bodmas, but I also know that multiplication and division. Let me take off the capybara. If it is a capybara. I know Bodmas, but I also know that multiplication and division just glue numbers together. So that means that, and check this out, Kimberly, watch closely. These two are glued together. That's way too fat. These two are glued together. All of this is one number. All of that is one number. And everything else is separated by addition and subtraction. It have no brackets. So, I'll put Bodmas here. It have no brackets. So I'll do my division and multiplication section first. Right? So this here, 3 2s are 6. And then I have my minus 5. And I have my plus. Now what's gonna happen here? What do I do? Do I do the divide first? Or do I do the multiplication first? When you reach a point where you have plenty multiply and divide, the safest thing to do is to just start from the beginning and go down the line like that. Right? So 6 times 3. So 6 times 3. 6 3s are 18. 18 divided by 2. So the answer here is 9. 6 3s are 18, right? Yes. And 18 divided by 2 is 9. Yes. And so now I'll have a plus 5 and a minus 1. So now we finish all of the multiplication and division, right? Kimberly, I hope you understood that one. Let me know if you understood, please, right? We did all of the multiplications and divisions. Now it's time for the addition and subtraction. And the addition and subtraction, guess what? We could go 6 minus 5 is 1 plus 9 is 10 plus 5 is blah, blah, blah. But we could remember the associative law will help us out, like this minus 5 and this plus 5. Remember, we can add and subtract in any order as long as you keep the sign. So minus 5 and plus 5, that gone. Right? So I'll just have 6 plus 9 minus 1. Well, 9 minus 1 is 8. So I'll have 6 plus 8. And 6 plus 8 is 14, is the final answer here. Bodmas does say do the brackets first. So I do have to do the brackets first. Yeah, I'm happy you do, Kimberly. We'll see. The questions do get harder. So I have to do the brackets first. But remember what I said. Multiplication and division glues numbers together. So that means that this entire thing here is glued together by that multiplication sign. And look, multiplication and division, this entire thing is glued together. Right? So you can see this is just really 3 numbers separated by addition and subtraction. So let me do the brackets first, right? So 2 minus 5, when the signs are different, you find the difference and you keep the sign of the larger number. So this is 3 multiplied by negative 3. The multiply, glues numbers together. I have the plus here. And I'm doing the brackets first, right? So 6 times 3 divided by 7, 8, 9. So this will be 9 over here. And all of this is glued together. Right? And I have minus 1. And so now I still have my multiplications to do. So I did my brackets, and I'll write Bodmas on the side here. I did my brackets. Now I had to do my multiplications and divisions. 3 3s are negative 9. Plus, with this here, I'll just start at the beginning. 6 times 3 is 18. Divided by 9. So this whole thing boils down to 2. And then I have minus 1. Right? So I'll have negative 9 plus 2 minus 1 is 1. And well, negative 9 plus 1, when the signs are different, you find the difference. The difference between 9 and 1 is 8. And you keep the sign of the larger number. The answer is negative 8 here, right? I see in that bracket there, but that bracket just have -4 in it. So that don't really have anything to do in that bracket, right? But I see in that being divided, 8 divided by -4. So this is 8 divided by -4. So this is one number. So you see why it is division, just glue numbers together, because it's a fraction, right? And look, this is a multiply here. So that is one number. And this is another multiply here. So that is one number, right? So I have my 4 plus this here, 8 divided by -4, that is -2. I have the plus, 5 2s are 10. I have the -3. I have the plus, 6 multiplied by -1 is -6. So this giving you the 10, and this giving you the -6. So now you could see that, well, I checked, it didn't really have any brackets. I did my multiplications and divisions, right? And now addition and so once you do your multiplication and divisions, it is boiled down like bhaji, and you'll just have addition and subtraction left, right? So we could see here that this is 4. Well, plus -2, that plus don't matter, right? That plus don't matter. Because if you wanted to add, remember, this is the additive inverse. So this coming and saying, no, do the opposite of what it had before, right? So that's just 4 -2 plus 10 -3. And then this plus don't matter here either. So -6, right? I could do it in pieces. So I could see that 4 -2 is 2. Right? I could see that -3, you notice how I keep in the sign, eh? -3, -6, when the signs are the same, you add them and you keep the sign. And now I have a plus 10 in the middle here. 10 minus 9 is 1 plus 1. So this is 2 plus 1. The final answer is 3. So you can see here, well, I had to do the brackets first. So, Bodmas, let me do them brackets first, right? So 4 plus 8, that'll give me 12. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 gonna be divided by, this is -4 plus 2. When the signs are when the signs are different, you find the difference and you keep the sign of the larger number. Just know your rules, right? Then you have this multiply here, and I have in the brackets here, 5 -3 is 2. Right? I have a plus, I have 6, and I have multiply by -1. So you see, all I did was the brackets. That is all. That is all. Now, this 12 is being divided by -2, which is being multiplied by 2. So all of this is one number. Multiplication and division glues numbers together. So all of this is one number. And then I have the addition sign, which separates numbers. And then I have another number here, because this is a multiply. So now it's time to do my multiplications and divisions. When I have multiple multiplications and divisions in a row, the best thing to do is to start at the beginning and work your way down one at a time for multiplication and division, right? So 12 divided by 2, right? That will give me 6, right? So this will be -6. 12 divided by 2 is -6 multiplied by 2, right? Which will give me -12. Yeah. The safest thing to do is just go like that. You could have just go 2 times negative 2. You see how if you go 2 times negative 2, you'll get negative 4 times or negative 36? Nah. So the safest thing to do is to start at the beginning. Right? 12 divided by negative 2. Right? This 12 here divided by negative 2. That is what gives me this negative 6. Negative 6 times this 2 is negative 12. Then I have this plus sign here. And on this side, 6 times negative 1, that gives me negative 6. So it's a plus. Negative 12 plus minus 6. Well, the plus don't matter because this is the inverse of plus. So I will have negative 12 minus 6. When the signs are the same, you add them and you keep the sign. All right. Well, I have some questions for you. So you could see here in this case, multiplication glues numbers together. So these two numbers are glued together. That is the note that we took. So this is 3 plus 2 2's and negative 4. Well, you know that this plus doesn't matter because it is negative. So this is 3 minus 4. When the signs are different, you find the difference, keep the sign of the larger number. Minus 1 is the first answer. Multiplication and division glues numbers together. So that means that this whole thing is one number. So you have 10 plus this number. And this number, we're going to take it one at a time. So 10 multiplied by 10 is 100. And then you have 100 divided by 10. And so your answer is 10. And so the final answer here, 10 plus 10 is 20. Division. Now take a look at this. This is something we didn't see before. Right? We see here that we have a 2, we have a bracket, and we have 1 minus 4. What this means 2 multiplied by 1 minus 4. Right? So whatever is in the brackets, you could think about whatever in the brackets as one big number. And the 2 is being multiplied by that one big number. Right? So you could see here that this is a multiply. Right? This is a divide. So that means that this multiplying with the brackets and dividing with this means that this whole thing is one number. Of course, I have to do my brackets first, right? So 3 plus, and what do I have here? I have in the brackets, well, I have 2 multiplied by 1 minus 4 is minus 3. So that is a multiply there because of how it was written. When you don't have anything, it's automatically a multiply. Right? So this is a note you should take. Right? And this is something called the distributive law, but in this case we don't have to use the distributive law because we could work out what's in the brackets. Sometimes you can't work out what's in the brackets and you have to use the distributive law. We will get there. Right? And then this is being divided by 2. Notice that all of these, this give you one number. So I will do that first. You have 3 plus 2 3's are negative 6 divided by 2. All right, will give me negative 3 here. Right? And so it is boiled down to 3 minus 3. And the answer is 0. So as seen here, 8 multiplied by 2 divided by 4 means this entire thing is one number. As seen here, 3 multiplied by the brackets divided by 4 means this entire thing is one number. And I must work my brackets first. But, you know, the brackets on this side, addition to separate things. So addition means that these two numbers are separate. So even though I am working my brackets first, I could work this number and it wouldn't affect this number here. So 8 2s are 16. So 8 times 2 is 16. And 16 divided by 4, right? 16 divided by 4 is 4. So this does work out to be that. Plus, now I'm going to work this number, and I will work the brackets first. So this here is negative 4. 6 minus 10 is negative 4. So this will work out to be 3 multiplied by negative 4 divided by 4. And this is a multiply here. So now I have 4 plus 4 3s are 12. 4 3s are, so this is negative 12 here, divided by 4. So the answer here is negative 3. And so, you know, this addition sign don't matter anymore because of this minus sign here. So this really boils down to 4 minus 3. The answer to this question is 1. Last one. This is the one that Kimberly was getting stressed with. Of course, we have to do the brackets first. But let me look at all of the numbers that glued together. 15 being divided by these brackets here. So you can see that this is glued together. These brackets multiplying by these brackets, dividing by 25. So all of this is glued together. Yeah, and of course I have this minus sign there separating the two numbers. So what I could say, well, this is, let me just work my brackets first, right? This is 15 divided by, this here is 3 and 2, that is 5. Then I have a minus. I have this brackets here, 4 plus 6, that is 10, multiplied by 3 plus 2, that is 5, divided by 25. All right, so now you could see it more clearly that this is glued together. This is glued together because I did my brackets first. Right? And it's just two numbers that are being subtracted, really. And so now I could do my multiplications and divisions. So 15 divided by 5 is 3. Minus, on this side, I'll take it one at a time. So 10 multiplied by 5 is 50. Divided by 25 is 2. And so this whole question does boil down to 3 minus 2. The answer is 1. Yeah? Take it easy, guys. Have a good weekend, and I'll see you Tuesday.